A good question for you. Why on earth are local councils all over the country still convinced that low traffic neighbourhoods are the way to go? Yesterday, a Labour council, Lambeth to be precise, was forced to axe their low traffic neighbourhood they put into Dulwich. It raked in £1 million for them in fines, but it was judged to be illegal. Let's talk to Nick Freeman, motoring lawyer and commentator. Nick, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
This is a great decision, isn't it, and a great victory for common sense, I suppose, if for want of a better word. A judge rejected an appeal. They'd already lost in May, but the appeal was heard and they lost again. Traffic being restricted in neighbourhoods like this is not a good idea, is it?
It's not a good idea. This actually is a landmark decision. It's the first time that a council has been successfully challenged. Rather than them revoking it, the judge actually has quashed it, which means he's taken it down. And of course, as a consequence, the reason he's done that is because Dulwich, their action group, prepared a 53-page document. There was 67.5% of the people who opposed it. And Lambeth Council basically ignored all the representations that were made. So they had their own agenda, which is what many people suspect councils do. They went ahead and obviously it was subject to legal challenge, and as you rightly said, it's been quashed. That's the end of it. But of course there are huge consequences. Consequence number one, obviously, is the money that was spent setting it up has been completely wasted. They've raised over £1,080,000 in fines, which now must be returned. And then you've got to consider the businesses that have actually gone under as a consequence of these LTNs and experimental traffic orders. And of course, in my view, the businesses may well have a civil action against Lambeth Council. And it goes further than that, because if the councillors, the particular councillors concerned, have been shown to just completely disregard willfully their duty, their public duty, there may be something for the police to investigate, misfeasance in public office.
Yes.
I'm not saying that anyone is guilty. It's a civil offence. It's a tort. But in my view, the relevant people concerned should certainly take legal advice, number one, in connection with suing any civil actions against the council and nominating the councillors concerned, and also asking the police to investigate whether or not there is an action for misfeasance in public office. Because this creates a precedent, and this is a warning, a red letter warning to councils throughout the country. You cannot pursue your own agenda without proper consultation and taking into account the wishes of those who you represent. So this, as I say, is a landmark case with huge ramifications and consequences.
Particularly affecting local neighbourhoods as they do. I mean, I was victim. I almost got in touch with you actually about it, Nick, but I decided in the end just to pay up, which is what I've done. I got 2 fines for driving down the street near where I live on my way to the dry cleaners. It turns out that unbeknownst to me, and because the sign wasn't clear enough that I didn't see it, a particular road that I drive down is now restricted between the hours of 9 and 9:45 and 3 and 3:45 because there's a school there, so that you can drive down it every other time, but if you drive down it during those times, it's £160 fine. And I got 2 of them in the same week because I wasn't aware that there was even a new rule, you know. And when I appealed it, they said, well, you should have chosen an alternative route. I said, well, the alternative route is actually closed due to roadworks, and so that's the only way I could go. And they still didn't allow the appeal, so I've had to pay the 80 quid, so it's 160 quid down to me. But this kind of arbitrary change of the way, the rules of the road seems to me to be completely outrageous.
Well, in my view, I'm going to say it's an anti-motoring lobby. That they want to get cars off the road. They want to get cars in other areas. If you look at this 53-page report, what Dulwich said was, look, we're happy to sit down and have a proper consultation, but what you're doing is moving congestion and pollution to different areas. You're not solving the problem, you're kicking the can down the road, which really is probably a matter of common sense and applies in most cases. And they didn't want to hear that for reasons I'm not familiar with.
And they continue, don't they, to try and use what I would call spurious scientific data, which suggests that the air is somehow cleaner because they've moved the traffic a couple of blocks away. And clearly, you know, the air is the air. You know, it can't be any dirtier 2 blocks away just because, you know, that's where the traffic is, and now where you are, it's clean. The air travels.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, but it's not achieving anything, is it, to say, right, I'm going to make it temporarily cleaner on my street, and the adjacent streets going to be more polluted than it was before. And that's exactly what this report illustrated. But the council just completely ignored it. And I think they're going to have huge problems now. The problem, of course, is who is it who pays at the end of the day? It's the taxpayer. And that's why I'm suggesting that if there are any civil actions, the relevant councillors are individually named and involved in the action, because that will serve as a huge deterrent to would-be people, would-be councillors pursuing their own agenda, to make them sit up and think, actually, do I want this aggravation, or am I actually going to do this properly, fairly, in compliance with what my legal requirements are?
Yeah. And in terms of the legalities of any council taking this kind of measure, I mean, presumably you would advise any campaigning group in various places, like Oxford's got a problem apparently, Newcastle as well, where taxi drivers can't go into certain places and they can't actually make a living, that if you were to pressure these councils financially or threaten them financially, whether it's by you know, a lawsuit or a claim of one kind or another, is that the way forward, do you think?
Well, the way forward to start off with is to do some proper research, and you have to have an action group. You have to invest in proper research. So you're not going forward just saying, look, I don't want you on my street. You've got to explain why this isn't a good idea. And that's exactly what Dulwich did, and it made complete sense. So you can't just express your own personal view. It's got to be a collective effort, and it may be in certain situations that actually an LTN is the right solution. It depends on each particular scenario. So my advice will be employ experts, get some money together, get an action group together, do your research properly, don't cut corners, and then get involved in the consultation process in a constructive way, and hopefully the council similarly engages, and see where you go. And if you have the data that suggests actually this is a really bad idea and the council go ahead with it, then obviously you can become more forceful, you can threaten legal action, and no doubt councillors and councils will be listening and take note of what's happening.
Maybe we'll actually get them to do what they should be doing. Nick, great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Coming up next.